Okay, I'm a 57-year-old male who has 3 kids, 30 male, 27 female, and 25 male. Me and my wife have paid for each of my 2 oldest's wedding, which covered dress, suit, bridal parties. If they wanted to make a destination wedding, we covered guests who couldn't afford it in the honeymoon. Now, there was not a budget placed on them. My oldest's wedding total was around $85K. My middle kid was around $120K. Now, my youngest is getting married. Him and his soon-to-be wife don't believe in big weddings, and total is around $20K. Now, my kids don't know how much each other's weddings cost, as I didn't share, and I guess they didn't see the need to bring it up. So the problem came up this past weekend. My soon-to-be daughter-in-law was talking to my middle daughter and my oldest son's wife about their wedding, and I guess the totals came up. Now, my youngest son and his fiancée are demanding I write them a check for the difference, for a down payment on a condo or a house. I refused and stated I was only paying for their wedding, and now they are threatening to disinvite me. So, am I the a-hole? So, it has come up, so I'm adding this here from the comments. I paid for all my kids' college lives. On top of that, they each have 3 trust funds that got released at 18, 25, and 35. He has more than enough for a down payment if he wanted to. Not the a-hole. I suspect that this whole thing wasn't your son's idea. Still, if they disinvite you, don't pay for any of their wedding. That sounds extreme, but you have to treat them like the little children they are. The nuclear option is a dish that is best served cold. Treat your children equally. Why wouldn't you? I'd say give them a wedding gift of $50K and let them decide if they want to stay economical and have a fabulous honeymoon, or put a deposit on a home. Why penalize them for not being extravagant? Do your other kids agree they should get something more equal? If so, that's a definite yes, the a-hole. Otherwise, a soft everybody sucks here, since they shouldn't be threatening to disinvite you. It's a pretty daft move on their part though, because if they disinvite you, then your obvious response would be not to pay for any of it. Also, good God, $120K on a wedding? To be able to even consider that just blows my mind. My late wife Kate passed away about 12 years ago. They have a family heirloom that has passed down several generations, starting from her great-grandmother, from mothers to their first daughters on their 18th or thereabouts birthdays. The heirloom itself is not highly valuable in a financial sense, but the history makes it very valuable to the people in the family. I currently possess it after Kate passed away, and I always intended to give it to my daughter, Claire, on her 18th birthday. She is currently 16. I married my current wife about 8 years ago. My stepdaughter, Sarah, whom I have adopted and consider my own daughter, is 17 years and 11 months. Her 18th birthday is in a month. My wife has also adopted Claire, and we all consider each other as one family. My wife asked me to give the heirloom to Sarah on her birthday to continue the tradition. I was hesitant because I always intended to give it to Claire, who is Kate's only daughter, as this was what she would have wanted and is the continuation of the tradition. My wife counters that this belongs to our family now, and we should give it to our eldest daughter on her 18th birthday, and therefore this should be Sarah. I told her that while I consider Sarah to be my daughter, but she's not Kate's daughter, this belongs to Kate and should go to Kate's daughter. My wife said Claire is her daughter, not anyone else's, and wife accused me of playing favorites and told me that if I truly consider Sarah to be my daughter, then I'll do the right thing for her, or that I haven't really accepted Sarah as a real daughter yet. I consulted my son, from Kate, 25 years old, and he told me that if I do this, he's going to walk away from the birthday party, and that he bets he won't be the only one. He said if I do this, I should be ready for severe consequences. He left in a very frustrated way. His argument in the end was that this isn't yours to give away, it was Mom's and now belongs to Claire. My wife thinks my son is overreacting, and it's only because due to his age and moving out, he's never bonded with Sarah like Claire and I have. So he doesn't consider Sarah to be his real sister. Otherwise, he'd be happy for her. My wife thinks Claire will be happy about this since she considers Sarah to be her big sister, and it will bring the girls even closer together because Sarah will be happy to share it with Claire, and they'll both have it. So, would I be the a-hole if I did what my wife wants me to do and give the heirloom to Sarah? Yes, the a-hole. Sarah has no connection to Kate. She isn't Kate's daughter. If this was your family heirloom, your wife might have a point, but it isn't. Your wife is way out of line. Yes, the a-hole. If you and Kate adopted Sarah together, it would make sense to give her the necklace. But Kate never knew Sarah, so the necklace should 100% go to Claire. If Claire didn't exist, I would say it should go to one of Kate's nieces. Sarah would not make the list because she did not know Kate. I am shocked your wife even suggested it. It was way out of line. The necklace belongs to Kate's family. Yes, the a-hole for even considering it. Your wife is also an even bigger a-hole for pressuring you to do it. It belonged to Kate. It's you who adopted Sarah. Kate didn't. It should stay with Kate's children. Give it to Claire on her 18th birthday. I don't trust your wife around it. You should seriously consider giving it to your son, or ideally Kate's mother, if she's still alive, for safekeeping. So I, 24 female, am engaged to my long-term fiancé, 25 female, and we have a great relationship. His mom is somewhat nice to me for the most part, but I finally lost my cool a few weeks back. Let me preface by saying that I cannot have kids. It's a fact that we have come to terms with, even though it really hurts, but we've moved on with our lives knowing that we can't have kids. A couple of weeks back, my fiancé randomly said his mom noticed I gained a lot of weight. Thanks, PCOS. And thought I was pregnant. To appease her, he went out and bought a pregnancy test and told me that I didn't have to take it, but she wanted proof that he bought one. I took it. It was negative, and I told him that I'm not taking another test. Later that night, he calls her to tell her that I'm not going to take any more tests, and she immediately starts crying and saying that all she wants is for us to have kids so she can be a grandmother once again. She has 4 grandkids already. She knows I can't have kids. I finally snapped and told her that if she wanted one so badly, then she would be responsible for my fertility treatments, my medical bills, and funeral costs if I were to die during labor. Now his family won't talk to him and said that I sent her into a deep depression. My fiancé isn't mad at me, but I do feel bad that his family won't talk to him. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This behavior would be unacceptable, even if she didn't know you couldn't have kids. The fact that she treats you like this, even though she knows, is selfish and cruel. Not the a-hole. Mother-in-law is manipulative and cruel. But did your significant other get the pregnancy test? This is where he should have shut her down. Appeasing her is a red flag. He is the one who should have told her off. Not the a-hole. Your fiancé needs to learn boundaries. He bought and had you take a pregnancy test because his mother said so. Wow. Your fertility and family planning are nobody's business besides you and future husband. As a couple, you and your fiancé together need to make it clear that this topic is not up for discussion or debate, and stick to it. If your fiancé doesn't support this and boundaries with his mom, do you really want to marry into that family? Or marry your fiancé and move far away so you don't have to deal with mother-in-law? Update. I talked to my fiancé when he woke up and told him how I felt about this whole situation. He's going over to his parents today to talk to them and told me that he's going to reaffirm to his mom that making me take pregnancy tests is doing more harm than good, and that I will not be doing this again. He also told me that he wants to be with me regardless if we have kids, and that he didn't really argue with her because she gave him the money to buy the tests after he said he was broke to avoid buying them. He apologized for buying them in the first place and said it wouldn't happen anymore. And yes, this is not the first time she has made me take a pregnancy test because she always hoped that we would have a miracle child. Trust me, I want a miracle child too, but I'm not willing to risk my life for a fetus that may not be viable. That may make me selfish, but if that's the case, then so be it. He said he's going to set harder boundaries with her and his family, and if they cannot respect it, then he will cut contact entirely. I don't want him to cut contact with his family, but he is adamant that he doesn't want a relationship with them if they won't respect his boundaries or me. Update again. He went over. She screamed and cried again. He called his brother and they both were able to tell her that she's being overly dramatic and her longing for more grandkids is not worth losing her son over. She calmed down and apologized to him, but said she doesn't want to see me, which is fine because I told my fiancé that I don't feel comfortable seeing her until I can come to terms with everything. He is minimizing contact with her until everything settles down, even though I told him that I didn't want him to feel like he had to do that. I'm going to look into fertility treatments, but not for her, because you have all given me wonderful advice on how to handle PCOS. For anyone that is wondering, it really isn't just the PCOS, but I also have blockages and scar tissue from previous events that I will not disclose. And I actually can't have a period without being on hormonal medication to produce one. Side effects of the medication include rapid mood swings during a cycle, and I just so happen to be starting one, so whoops on my part. For those saying she didn't force me, you don't have to deal with the nasty texts or screaming phone calls when she doesn't get her way. This isn't the first time she and I have gone toe-to-toe because I didn't do what she wants, and it won't be the last. My fiancé knows this better than anyone because he generally receives the brunt of it. This is the first time that I have ever interjected myself into their conversation to stand up for myself. They also don't speak English as a first language, so I don't speak their native language. So I can't say that he wasn't defending me because I only heard what she was saying, which she deliberately chose to say in English so that I would hear it. He was speaking in their shared language, so again, I can't say whether or not he was defending me, and I didn't ask before I went off on her. As of right now, the baby talk is completely banned, and if it happens, it happens. If not, I'm still going to continue living my life as is. My husband is berating me for not defending him on our wedding day. I, 26 female, am now considering divorcing my husband, 26 male, over this catastrophe, because he and his groomsmen decided to prank me. For background, we have been dating since I joined my nursing career 3 years ago. He was related to a patient and my husband wanted to get drinks with me. We hit it off, but now I'm here, crying in my dressing room. My brother is a baker. He's quite popular around town for how good his cakes are. And as his little sister, he decided to bake me and my husband a wedding cake for free. Even though his wife just gave birth to triplets, he still chose to bake us a beautiful wedding cake. So we will call this brother B. And then my other brother is an event planner. And since he is also paid wealthy, he decided to cut slack and charge me far less. Since he quotes, "I know you the most, don't worry," my brother took the reins on my wedding day and made sure it all went well and made it like I was a queen. I'll call my oldest brother P. First red flag of the day. While standing at the altar, he looks high as he's slouching on the priest. I could almost hear my mom rolling in the grave. Second was when he kept complaining to P about how the flowers looked hideous and that he's disgraceful. I reminded my husband that he should be thankful that P listened to our wishes and that he tried to make our wedding as nice as possible. My husband just rolled his eyes and went off to get drunk. I'm sitting there annoyed, but I'm like, he's probably scared. I'll give him time. He doesn't though. He does at the cake though. That has me thinking he's easing up. So when the groomsmen go behind us, I thought he was getting our picture taken. So that also made me think my bridesmaids are behind me. Nope. The minute my dear old dad tries to take his phone out for a photo, I'm grabbed by shoulders by the guys and am slammed into the cake. My head goes through the cake like butter. My dress and face are now covered, and I now want to hide and cry. Hellfire kicks loose. P, Dad, my bodybuilder bridesmaid, my Uncle H and G, my Nan, start kicking out the groomsmen while I'm crying and holding on to Baker as my husband is yelling at me. Most of my husband's side start laughing at the whole thing, and I have never been more traumatized in my life. After I got myself cleaned up in the toilet, I went into my wedding to see my husband wrecking the decor, and mine and his family are now screaming at one another. I hated that day, but I'm glad my family and friends stuck up for me. I don't feel guilty about what happened on our special day, but my husband is trying to ban me from seeing my brothers and dad, and that if I try and see them, I'm an aggressive woman. Because apparently I was terrible at our wedding and made the day all about me, even though P asked him for his input into the wedding and my husband just shrugged. I'm in desperate need of advice if I should even try and reconcile a relationship with him. I'm 75% leaving him. I just have a lot of doubt and am embarrassed that my marriage is ending before it began. But if anyone could please put their input in the comments, if I should stay with him or sack him off. How did your relationship get as far as getting married? That sounds absolutely awful, and I feel terrible for you. He's humiliated you in front of your closest family and friends on what's supposed to be the best day of your lives. Do not let him cut you off the people who supported you through that. Don't think of it as the marriage ended before it began. Think of it as the bullet you most dangerously managed to avoid by the skin of your teeth. Seriously, OP, is this normal behavior for him? Had you somehow normalized it or managed to convince yourself that it wasn't that bad? I just can't see how this behavior took you unaware. If it is indeed a shocking wedding day reveal, I'd say it's even worse. It's like he mendaciously waited until you were married to reveal his final crappy form, thinking that he had you trapped now. Me, 26 male, and my wife Sasha, 27 female, have a 3-year-old daughter together and have been together for 4.5 years. Me and her family do not speak at all. So a little background story on that. I am white, and Sasha is black. My family has always accepted Sasha without any issue. Sasha's parents were not accepting. Whenever I first met them, they were ice cold. I came over a few holidays at the start of our relationship, and her entire family just ducked with me. Sasha defended me every single time, saying that her family isn't the best sometimes, and I was the first white person anyone brought into the family, and that her uncles like to duck with everyone, and not just me. Well, their behavior got increasingly worse. I was left out of things on purpose. They would invite Sasha to events and told her not to bring me. Her mom told her multiple times that she should break up with me as I wouldn't be accepted into the family. Finally, I put my foot down and told Sasha it was her family or me, because I was done being treated like I was. Sasha picked me, and we've been really happy since. Her parents blew up at her for cutting them off. When we got married, they didn't show up at the wedding. I personally invited them because they didn't even respond. I haven't seen or spoken to them in years. After the birth of our son, Sasha wanted to try to reconnect with her parents. I didn't stop her, but I did tell her that her parents weren't allowed around our son. She has respected that. She will see her parents occasionally, but I never go with. The last year or so, though, her parents have been reaching out to me individually. I've refused every single time, and typically just ignore their inquiries. In my opinion, they only want to form a relationship due to the fact they don't have access to their grandson. They don't have any other grandchildren at this point. I come home with my son yesterday, and guess who's sitting on my couch? I took my son to his room without letting them see him. I asked how they got inside the house. They said they knew the garage code through Sasha. I knew Sasha gave her parents the garage code for emergencies. I demanded they leave. They said they wanted to speak, and since I didn't answer their calls, they had to show up in person. I left the room and called Sasha. I tried 3 times, but she didn't respond. I went back to the living room and asked them again to leave. Sasha's mom was crying and refusing to leave. I called the police. The police showed up and removed them. I didn't press charges or anything, but now Sasha is pissed, saying that what I did was extreme and unneeded, that her parents are difficult people, but she would have been able to handle them. But I tried her 3 times and it took her an hour to respond, and they weren't leaving. And I couldn't just leave my son in his room the whole time. But Sasha and her whole family is calling me an a-hole. My parents are on my side. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Just to add that I didn't tell them I was calling the police. When they wouldn't leave, I went into my son's bedroom and called, waited for them to show up. Not the a-hole. They were intruders in your home. They weren't invited and refused to leave when you told them to. Being family doesn't give them a free pass to trespass when they knew full well they wouldn't be welcome. Don't forget to change the code on the garage. Not the a-hole. The behavior of Sasha's family is unsettling and definitely not acceptable. You gave them a chance to be in your lives and they did not take it. Coming into your home like that and refusing to leave is definitely grounds for a call to police. I sense that this is only the beginning. Sasha will struggle through this because they are her parents.